Hello and welcome to this episode of Paula at the Run Club with me, Paula Radcliffe.
And me, Christopher Thompson.
And on today's show, we welcome back one of our favourite people to talk to. I'm sure many of you remember Wendy Rogers from HIGH5, and she will be giving us loads and loads of expert tips on something extremely essential to our running, good hydration. I am just back from Tokyo, so I think this is very apt that we're actually going to learn all about hydration because, as we mentioned on the updates from there, tough conditions for those working as well as those
I was going to
competing.
say, how are you feeling? Are you hydrated? I mean, you've had time change flights, you've had all that to contend with. Have you looked after yourself?
I have. I've actually been multitasking because I only got back late last night as we're recording this. I tried to stay extremely well hydrated on the flight because, of course, I'm still managing that calf thing that went, I'm not sure what it was actually. But encouragingly, first thing this morning at 8:30 this morning, I was in for a scan. I've had a second lot of PRP on it. But the encouraging news is that even with the pain that I had and the spasming that I was getting in Tokyo, the general swelling and the fluid that was left between essentially the two calf muscles. So you have your medial gastric and your soleus, and I had a pocket of fluid that has reduced.
Okay,
so
good.
best guess for what happened out in Tokyo was perhaps actually a bit of dehydration coming into play, certainly having to run on the road every day because I couldn't take my trails with me. And so that I think meant that I maybe just got rid of some of the fibrous tissue and the adherences that were in there amongst the muscles and the scar tissue and broke it down. So a little bit spasmy at the time, but thankfully not done any big damage. And so hopefully moved a little step closer. But it definitely made me feel for what we've heard about Josh Kerr running on that torn calf. I hope he's not going to have...
Is that the official line? By the way, just before I say that, I mean, only you would get back from a trip in Tokyo and within a few hours you're on the scanning table.
I was setting it up while I was out there. I was thinking, okay, I need to try and do this.
Well, when I get back from a trip, the first thing I think of, have we got milk? What state did I leave my house in? But you're like, right, calf
You're forgetting
scan.
I've got the time constraint of a Kielder marathon, half marathon,
Oh, of course,
whatever
yeah,
I can
yeah,
limp
yeah.
round in a couple of weeks. So I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I need to do what I can to make sure that I'm not making that worse again. Because again, we give out the evidence over and over again, don't we, on this podcast? Don't run through stuff. Make sure you're okay. So I'm really making sure that I'm not setting it back because it was a stupid thing that was really worth it to keep running through it in Boston. But I don't want to go back to there again.
Well, you don't forget with Kilda as well, because I have run round there and it's stunning. But the challenges your calf going to face is a lot ups and downs. There's very little just flat.
But it's
So,
actually better on that.
is it?
Because I worked out in Tokyo, it's pretty much flat. There's not really much else. And I was running around again on the tarmac. It seems to much prefer up and down and soft surfaces.
Okay.
So
Well, you're
fingers
going to have
crossed.
a lot of gravel around Kilda because it's mown. There's only over the dam is the road. The rest of it's pretty much like trail.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. Have you run around it before?
No, I've only seen pictures of it and videos of it, but I am extremely excited because I actually love that kind of terrain.
So what is the Kilda race you're doing? What is the event?
It is I think it's just called the Ultra Kielder Marathon Weekend.
Okay.
And so there is a 10K race on the Saturday, and then half marathon and marathon on the Sunday, and some kids races and other activities thrown in there as well. So it's put on by Events of the North, which is, of course, Steve Cram's events company. And yeah, I've been promising for a long time, and it's been on my bucket list for a long time. So I'm kind of determined I'm going there one way or the other. Raf's going to run around the 10K, and I will go around whichever event is safe for me to get round.
Perfect. So anyone that's doing that event, get excited. They've got a half-injured Paula to beat.
Come back. I'll look more on the kind of returning.
So did you get going back to Josh? Did you? I mean, I felt so sorry for him because he looked. I think I mentioned it before on our previous feedback that the poor lad almost didn't want to register he was injured. When you're in the heat of the battle, you're so focused on trying to achieve something that possibly was the sensible thing to stop. I don't know, but Is it
I
a
think
calf
it's
issue? Is that what it? Is that what it's
that's the
been?
news. Is that actually? I don't know if you watched the semi-final. He kind of was slowing up because he knew he'd qualified and got a push from behind and ended up falling, and in that caused a bit of a calf issue, which
Oh,
then fully
okay.
went in the race. So it was just a bit tight, I guess, going into it, and then it pulled during it. And I think it's very hard because you spend your whole year working towards an event. So to step off, I think it's one of those things, and someone actually did make the point. If you're, it might have been you, Thommo, if you're managing an injury and you know it's there and you feel it go in the race, then you would step aside. No, it's actually Catherine Mary that made this. So then you would do it. But if it's something that comes on fresh out of the blue, then you probably would carry on running with it because you're not aware that you've had something brewing. So I think that is kind of what happened. And knowing Josh as a person, I think he finds it very, very hard to step off in a World Championship final. I mean, this is a guy who, at World or
Yeah.
Olympic level, has always produced season's best or personal bests when it mattered. So it's a very, very hard thing to get your head around. I think we saw lots of that in Tokyo. I mean, I'm thinking to George Mills, I think there was a lot of having to manage not feeling good psychologically because of the conditions and how all of that changed everything. And it's a very difficult thing to do if you've not kind of been in that situation before. Some people can do it easily, and some people find it very, very hard.
I don't. I think it's one of the, if you can find someone who is ambitious and is able to almost make the decision to not push through and try and achieve that dream. It's very hard to have those two traits together because part of achieving something great involves taking risks
Yeah,
and pushing the
yeah.
body. And I think that's where, you know, the number of times we glorify a story of woe to get success. You take Jake Whiteman on the other hand. I mean, look at the last 2 years he's had, and he's kept pushing, and he's now second of the world. And I say back because he obviously won in Eugene a couple of years ago. And I think that's the thing where you look at Josh and you go, part of the reason he did what he did is what's ultimately going to be the reason we all get back on the podium in the future because it's the
because of
mentality.
the mentality. And it's the same thing, actually, I'm going to just mention quickly KJT,
Yeah.
because I think that was one of the moments.
Katrina Johnson Thompson, the
Yeah,
heptathlete.
exactly, who ran her heart out in that 800 meters. And again, people might say, oh, well, a personal best is quicker in those conditions to get as close to a personal best as she did. But more importantly, to actually get that gap to the perfect amount, not a thousandth of a second either way, and she wouldn't have had the same points to come out of it with a bronze medal. And I think, again, putting it all in perspective, the fact that in her mind had to be those demons of what happened in Tokyo in 2021 when she fully ruptured a calf in the 200 meters. She came through all of that, and people will say, well, she didn't retain her title. But no, she came out with a bronze medal on top of everything that she was kind of living out in preparation. So I think that was a phenomenal highlight there. And
Was
it's
she?
those moments as we go into autumn, isn't it, that those for moments for all of us. Pick your highlight of the summer and draw on that as you kind of get into the darker nights, and you've got to keep something motivated.
Do you know what something? Yeah, we do. Something a friend of mine said to me once that the winter is there for people to build the base for their future dreams.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly how he would it. I'm kind of translating in my mind how I think, and it was quite often, especially as a runner, winter symbolized those dark days where you just build. You almost, it's what's that saying? You work in the dark to prepare for the light. Have I made that up?
Yeah. Well, you're laying the foundations, aren't
Yeah.
you? But I think key in keeping the motivation through those foundations is always going to be the memories of the good times. And I think being able to have that to draw on, and also remember that tough times at the time are horrible, but ultimately probably make you stronger than the good times do in terms of the actual cumulative effect. So,
Well, to use the KJT example, some people that might think a bronze is not a success. She talked about how happy that made her because of the journey that it got. And I know from my experience, my biggest emotional highlights weren't from my greatest performances. It was from the biggest struggles and to overcome them. And that's why I think in life you can apply so much to that of our greatest moments personally often are not the things that you would assume in someone because it's how much it means to us. But
and with a nod to, I don't know, for where I am right now. It's actually Victor Hugo is one of my favorite quotes, and his is our greatest success in life is not in never falling down, but in picking ourselves up again each time that we fall, which is kind of a good way to move on. So on that, that was a bit deep there. Should we
Do you
get
know
into the
what?
chat with Wendy?
Do you know what, Paula? We don't do enough of that. I think we should. I think we should quote, get deep on subjects, and just generally, be those. What's that? Not metaphors. Oh God, edit all this out for me. It's the. Here we go. We are that. What's that word where someone comes up with quotes and then they become
Motivational?
a motivation for life? But we're not.
Oh, it is a metaphor for life.
No. It's the kind of. I can't think. Good.
Okay.
Great.
We'll just cut that bit out then.
Yeah.
On all of that. On to Wendy.
Yeah. It really annoys me because it's on the tip of my tongue what I'm trying to say. That those. I can't. Anyway. Don't worry. Go on. Yeah. Wendy.
So yeah, it now gives me great pleasure to introduce Wendy Rogers, who is a research and development expert with HIGH5, and she's going to come on and explain all that there is to understand, basically, and help everybody understand the importance of what you drink, when you drink it, and how it's going to help your performance. It is a great honour to welcome back Wendy Rogers, Research and Development Coordinator with HIGH5, who joined us in the previous build-up to London Marathon, gave us some great gems that time. So thank you for those, Wendy, and thank you on behalf of all the people listening who I know drew a lot of tips and gems from that interview that we had then. And what I guess I want to start off with now is that I've just come back from Tokyo. The World Athletics Championships were on out there. And particularly the first 4 or 5 days, the humidity was very high. I mean, in the low to high mid 80%, and temperature was touching 30 or above 30. In fact, up to about 35, I think, for one of the marathons. So even though they started them very early at 7:30 a.m., that actually meant the humidity was a little bit higher. It kind of dropped a little bit through the morning. So we saw a lot of difficulties faced by the athletes. And I wonder if you could kind of explain why. I mean, I'm guessing hydration was extremely important. We saw people really struggling to keep the core temperature down. Our own Emil Carres, who we've also had on the podcast, he just talked about the fact that once his temperature rose too much, that was just game over. He had to stop. So we saw cramps, we saw muscle pulls. Are those all down to hydration?
They are pretty much. They are also partly down to fueling as well. And I know that for myself, when at resting temperature, when it's very hot, your body actually needs sort of less fuel, and it likes to sort of sit at a nice sort of chill. But when you're very hot and you're training, your coolant systems actually take energy themselves. So it feels sometimes a bit counterintuitive when you're really hot to take on more fuel if you're exercising, but you do need a bit more fuel than you would expect while you're training or exercising at high temperatures. So there'll be a factor of fuel, there'll be a factor of the sort of sweating out of electrolytes. The humidity is a bit of a curveball because humid heats are very difficult, but your body's trying to sweat to cool itself, and the air is so humid that it's not evaporating, and that part of your cooling system is not working optimally at all. So the risk of overheating while dehydrating is bad. Your body doesn't really understand that that's what's happening, particularly if you're from an ethnic sort of, not even ethnic, just if you're evolved to an area that's not usually high humidity, your body won't naturally understand this and will keep going, I'm really hot, and it will keep sweating. Even though it's not helping, it will just keep sweating as a sort of, this is what we usually do, it's what it usually helps. And off the back of that, you will start to dehydrate. So the loss of electrolytes will be why you're seeing an increase in cramps and stuff. But the loss of hydration, the loss of actual sort of fluid in the body, the fluids used amongst, as well as the coolant thing, it sort of lubricates your joints. And so if that's running low, then the chances of joint injuries, muscle tears, all this sorts of stuff is much higher as well. So it just, all of your systems are put under so much more stress, and so that you would expect to see a rapid increase in sort of Did you see any dehydrated like fits and so on? Like I've
Um,
seen a few of those before, and they're not pleasant.
yeah, we have had some. I actually
Mm,
didn't see too many. I think there were a couple at the finish of the marathon. There were a lot of there was a lot of surveillance from the medical teams out there,
mm.
which also I felt kind of defeated the object. So they were weighing them at the finish. Now, I guess they did weigh them at the start for the marathon runners, and then they weighed them all. But that data is dependent surely on knowing how much they've taken on during the race, which is different for everybody.
That is a factor. Yeah, yeah. And I suppose I would hope that data-wise they were asking on top of the weighing at the finish bit
Hmm.
what their intake had been during. Otherwise, as you say, that's data that's kind of skewed.
Yeah.
Presumably, people, I would hope when you sort of train for a marathon, you do have there'll be a little variance up and down, I suppose, but for your own sort of personal expectations, you'd be like, well, I'm going to take on X number of gels at this point, or like X amount of liquid, and be able to give at least a rough estimate for people as to how much you've taken on throughout the run.
Okay. And from a humidity point of view, is it something you can adapt to? Because I know there was a debate over whether athletes had gone out early enough to adjust to it, and you mentioned the fact that if you live permanently in those conditions, you're used to them.
Mm,
I go back to so before actually a long time ago, before the 1996 Olympics, they
mm,
sent the British team to Tallahassee, and the Olympics were in Atlanta. So
mm,
actually, Tallahassee was way worse.
mm.
And I certainly felt like I arrived in Atlanta already a little bit system drained.
Mm.
Is there a sweet spot in terms of can your body adapt, like ideally as much as it's going to, without taking too much out?
I don't know that there's that much adaptation that can be done over a short space of time. And by short, I would even mean sort of months. Like maybe
Hmm.
if you lived in an environment for several years, your body would have got the knack of it. But you're talking that level of time for your body's sort of general system to adapt to it. And even that will never be as good as someone who is sort of native to that environment. I have a friend who's of Bengali descent, and he's lived his whole life in London with asthma, and then went to visit a friend over in like by the Mississippi River where it was really, really humid, and his asthma went away, and he was just sort of it's the first time in his life he's
Wow.
ever been able to sort of breathe properly and feel normal, and it's because it's the like it's from Bengali descent, like it's sort of second generation immigrant here, but like his body, his entire sort of family line was adapted to sort of Bangladeshi like climate and that level of humidity. And that became really obvious when he sort of stepped into that environment, whether that's a different sort of band of the planet. You're not restricted to
Hmm.
one place, the place that you were born, but like it it will be something that you've just sort of innately got. And
Hmm.
there's an element of that to all sports. Like there'll be people who are just sort of naturally inclined to one thing or another, whether that be strength training or running or swimming or anything. We all have natural adaptations from our environments, from our sort of arbitrary genetics, but there will be factors there that just sort of sitting in an environment and waiting to adapt will not be able to sort of match, like uh,
But
you've either got that or you
it's
haven't.
and that's one of the things I was saying to you, Paula, wasn't it? How elite athletes, they're separated by small differences, and
Hmm.
your natural ability to handle heat is going to be
Mm,
one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
I think of
Yeah.
Andy Vernon, who I raced with a lot, and it was very noticeable when we went into suddenly very hot environments. It was like his body was really apt at getting the heat out of his body, and I would just suffocate. It's like
Hmm.
mhm,
his veins would just appear on the surface of his skin as his body was trying to release that heat. And I feel
Hmm.
like, to what your point, Wendy, is like people will have a natural inkling towards one
mhm,
way or the other. I'm warm blooded, as I say.
mhm,
I love cold weather because I feel warm
mhm,
inside all
Hmm.
the time. But
mhm,
what's kind of to bring it round to like how, because you mentioned the word electrolytes, and I think that's the
Hmm.
thing that that's something that I always try to be very conscious of. You're trying to get the right mix and blend to be able to help with hydration. So what is it, especially around your products, do you do to try and get the optimum hydration within a very 100 mils, 200 mils, whatever you need to take? How do you go about that?
Well, we'll have products sort of set up for different jobs, purposes, times, that kind of thing. And so the one that we've got for just sort of pure hydration from neutral would be the isotonic hydration powder, and that's intended to be like everything's already in the right place, and you just need sort of more water and electrolytes in at the standard amount, and that sort of thing is formulated to have the same osmolality, osmotic pressure as your cells do, so it just sort of goes straight in. Otherwise, if you have if you drink pure water, it's still good for you, but your body will have to use some of its electrolytes to sort of pull it into you. And if you had something that like a gel that's sort of more dehydrating, that will still get the fuel into you faster. So you can sort of pick and choose where you need these and at what point that you need these things. Sorry, Paula.
No, I was just going to say on that, should in much warmer temperatures, should you change that or increase the electrolyte levels or not really?
If you feel yourself sweating out more than you usually would, then I think that's a good indication that you should be taking on more fluid and more electrolyte at the same time. So something like the isotonic electrolyte drink, like we do electrolyte gels now as well, so that might be able to pick things up more. But yeah, you need to have, it's quite a personal thing, a feel for your body and how much it's sweating or what it's sort of doing or feeling like. There's other sort of tells for feeling dehydrated as well. I mean, there's visual tells, but you can't like stop and look at yourself in a race. But the back of your tongue can feel quite fat if you're getting dehydrated. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. Like your mouth sort of dries out, but the swelling of the tongue is quite that sensation is quite indicative that you're starting to dehydrate and need to sort of throw some ideally isotonic fluid back quite quickly.
And the weaving in the road, is that fuel or is that hydration? That could be both, right?
It could be both. Yeah. I would point at, in those circumstances, I'd point at hydration before I'd point at fueling.
Okay.
But fueling will still be a factor of that. But that sort of weaving, that disorientation, like your water also helps sort of everything really, but it helps transport things around your body or pass connections sort of back and forth in the brain. So like your spatial awareness, your balance, all of these things, if you're starting to dehydrate, those things will go quite quickly and you will see that.
Someone's phone.
I know, it's actually the washing machine.
Oh, is it the washing machine?
Isla did try and get there in time to stop it, bless her. She just snuck out of her room and she went to try and stop the noise coming.
This time it's not me having the noise my end, it's your end. So
on the point, there was a lot of sweating in Tokyo, so there was a lot of washing that needed to be done.
Because the thing that my basic brain works is that when you sweat or when you secrete liquid through wee or through sweat, you're not what's coming out of your body is not pure H2O water. There are waste products and there's also salts. There's all kinds of things that are leaving your body. So when I think about it, dehydration or like the excess sweat in training, I'm thinking, well, if I just drink water, I'm not actually replacing pound for pound what's leaving my body. So yes. I do try and think, well, okay, I'm not going to drink sweat, obviously, but I need to drink something that's going to kind of mimic what I'm losing and try and match it.
It's interesting that you would say about drinking sweat, because what you sweat out is something that's got the same osmotic pressure as your cells.
Oh, so we should drink
sweat. So what we're trying to make for you is something that's got the same osmotic pressure as your cells. So yeah,
it just tastes nicer.
Just tastes nicer, but yeah, you're trying to basically get like salt water into you in the same levels that you'd expect to see in your. The difference is that we will also put a fuel level into it as well. So like you're sweating out your fluids and your salts. For it to go in properly, the body also does require like a carbohydrate amount, quite a low amount. It's not as strong as like a gel or an energy drink or anything, but it has to be. I think it's sort of 80 calories of high absorption carbohydrate per liter or so, like just a nominal amount for it to go in at the pace that you want it to. But yeah, you're not far off from the concept of that.
Doesn't contain toxins or waste products.
Well, I was thinking weed was for that, Paula, not for sweat.
Your urine would contain that, and And we drink different types of, like for exercise, we're talking about isotonic quite often. We want the fluid to be sort of going into us, into our muscles, into our systems. But say after you finished your race, you go for like a sports style massage and have all your muscles pummeled out. Then you'd be wanting to drink sort of more pure water, like hydrate, because you want that water to actually help your renal system to filter out all of the lactic acid and all the things you've released into your
Okay.
body. So there are times where you want water to sort of pass through you and clean, and then there are times that you want water to sort of go in and
Stay there.
restock your cooling systems,
Yeah.
as it were.
So I mean, I feel like this is a bit of a dark art of how do you know when you're hydrated enough? Because you can drink too much, can't you?
You can.
So
You can.
how would, especially when someone's getting ready for a race, how would they what kind of things can they look out for to know I'm getting the right amount of fluid in to prepare myself for a run or a race or anything?
So I think for race hydration, you're looking for sort of a solid neutral. You're not looking to try and sort of heavily overhydrate beforehand or anything, because that can cause the body to sort of move its electrolytes around or anything. You're aiming to just be at a sort of solid neutral level, which is usually characterized like if you go see a doctor, they'd usually sort of check your eyes or under your tongue and stuff. Like you're looking for sort of clear whites of the eyes and hydrated skin. And it's like a bit under your tongue where you can see veins, and if they're dark, it usually means that you're a bit dehydrated, and it should be like a healthy pink color under your tongue and all around your eye. Like you get a feel for what you're sort of looking for visually for hydration. How you feel generally is helpful, and knowing your own thirst markers is really helpful. And it was a block for me when I was younger, like when I was a student and not living particularly healthily. I would I'd get cravings for like sweets. I'd crave like wine gums or Haribo or stuff like that. And I got a bit older and I noticed when I was craving that actually if I just went and had a drink, like a properly hydrating drink, those cravings would go away. I didn't actually want sweets. I was mislabeling my thirst markers as a craving for something else. And so I think that can be a really helpful thing for people to realize that when they've got like a craving for something salty like crisps or something sweet, that actually their body is trying to go like, hey, need some fluid actually. And so it can be helpful to, if you're noticing cravings, to sort of try out drinking when you would usually be eating, or even other things that a person might crave, whether that's sort of smoking or stress or like things that someone might be like looking to make themselves feel better. If there's a part of you that's going, I don't feel right, I need something, try hydrating and see if that gets you to a better place.
Is there
Exactly what I do. Exactly that.
Is it?
Sorry,
Yeah.
go on, Paula.
I was just going to ask, is there a physical sign of dehydration? Like, does your heart rate go up, or is that only as the body overheats that it
It's only,
goes up?
that's as you'll start to get towards sort of dangerous levels of dehydration, you'll start to see like the really physical markers. Your urine color is a good tell for it. Like you shouldn't be peeing absolutely clear. You should look into that. But like you can find like little charts online or from your doctor or anything of like the colors that you should be expecting to be urinating, and also your stool. I know it's not a particularly sort of British subject to talk about, but again, you can find little charts online or in your doctor's surgery of what you should sort of be producing when you're pooping.
Are you basing that on colour?
No. It's a texture thing. Like if you're dehydrated, then it will come out as sort of little rocks or look a bit sort of. It'll have like a surface texture to it that looks a bit drier, and that could be an indication of dehydration. It's something that certain medications will cause as well. So I come from a farm chem background. So certain medications will cause like this forced dehydration that you will sort of see in parts of your body. But it can be a good way of keeping track just for anyone, I suppose.
What with So if we take an example that someone is on the start line and they're feeling they've got the right balance of hydration, what sort of conditions or time length of exercise would you say would be a marker for thinking, right, you need to start thinking about hydrating while on the run? So, because for me, I wouldn't generally take on fluids if I was running a 10K or half marathon, because I'm looking at half an hour to an hour of exercise. So if I'm hydrated before the run and it's not too hot, that for me would be that's enough to carry me through. But
Mm.
any marathon of any temperature would have me thinking I need to drink.
Yeah.
But
Gosh.
and I'm running for 2 hours. But again, I'm sweating, heavily sweating in and pushing my body. So for generally, what would be for you the things to think? Right now, you're running long enough or far enough or fast enough to say think about hydrating on the run.
Mm. Um, for me, as a person that wouldn't usually exercise with the level of intensity of a professional athlete, I would be expecting myself to need to start hydrating after about half hour.
Okay.
Um, I think the more efficient you are at exercise, and I mean how conditioned your body is, I mean your form, like and how sort of how much energy you actually use to maintain your runs.
Yeah.
If your form's bad, then you're sort of wasting energy and stuff, and yeah, that will all impact things. And so yeah, for the sort of more layman person, that definitely half hour or so, and even if you're more sort of confident, I'd still, it wouldn't do any harm to have that there,
Hmm.
to
Almost
not
like it
take that
as an
risk.
insurance policy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if you feel confident, then it doesn't have to be sort of energy gels or anything particularly intense. It could just be an isotonic drink or a zero or something like that, just to be able to top yourself
See,
up.
because the thing of my experience of when I've done a lot of mass races, and especially recently when I've been doing 2 hours to do a half marathon stuff, I see a stark difference between the final mile between a 10K and a half. In the 10, generally speaking, unless it's really extreme, generally
Hmm.
speaking, things are okay. As soon as you get into the half marathon kind of territory, you see a lot more medical intervention around the final mile, and I feel like to your point of half an hour upwards, I definitely think that for me, I feel like there's a definite shift in mindset and being careful when you shift from a 10K to half. I know there's distances between that, like 10 miles, but there definitely feels like a level of hydration respect that needs to happen generally for people. Because I mean, I take 2 hours, took 2 hours to run a half marathon the other week, and it's not the distance for me, it's the time. That's a long time to be out there for 2 hours,
Yeah.
and I was drinking while doing it.
I think it is, as you say, the time is almost more important than the distance that you can go. Like that should be your sort of, I think, main criteria when you're
Mm,
trying to sort of establish when you should be hydrating or fueling or anything. Because if you, maybe you could test this at some point, go out and run a 10K and do it at half speed and take
mm,
twice as long
mm,
and see how much more thirsty you get, or how much, if that's actually harder for you, because I bet it is.
mm.
I bet like going slower, or I wouldn't ask someone to go out and break form, but like those things will complicate or make things more difficult than
Oh, yeah, someone's talking to you. But
no, the lights just came on randomly.
yeah,
So
no, I saw that in the background. But that's the thing. I think that's the messaging. I think as well, and you're saying it so well. Is a lot of this is about experimenting with yourself and finding what's right for you. Because I think I did a test when I was younger around not just how much I sweated in a 2 hour period, but what kind of sweat, what how salty was my sweat, to use a lack of
yeah.
a better, what's the makeup? Not everyone can afford to do that. I know there is stuff that's coming into play where people can work with companies to look at what kind of a sweater they are, therefore help them with the right electrolyte drinks. But I think there's an element of personal discovery there and around the products that can work for them. But what I wanted to touch on is temperature of drink, because
Mm.
for me, when I'm in the morning, especially, and you tell me if I should or shouldn't, I we keep our filtered water in the fridge because
Mm.
I love when I do drink at home. I like the coldness of a drink. I like that makes me feel. It gives me a boost of alertness in my brain, not just the water or the hydration, but just the coldness. But when I'm running, I'm not a fan of cold liquid going in my body. I don't. I feel it needs to be room temperature. But is there a science behind what's better?
Science, I've noted, is a bit divided on that one. So cold sort of feels refreshing, and I think for that kind of alertness and stuff like that, that can be something that people want in the morning. What I've noted generally is that for absorption, like room temperature ambient is preferable, or warm even. And that's like, if you consider sort of a lot of like Eastern medicine or doctrine and stuff, it was all sort of teas or warm drinks constantly, and that this notion that actually sort of drinking cold stuff could put sort of stress on or shrink things, but also there's a soothing element to cold stuff, and if there's any sort of inflammation or I think mixing it up is a good idea, and you've got your preferences for what you like, and they feel like they're working for you, and it's hard to sort of argue with that. And if someone feels better for one thing or the other, the best thing that I can advise is for them to sort of try different things and see what works for them. If you were looking for better absorption specifically, then warmer is better. That's just the science behind that. Stuff has more energy to move across membranes, and yeah, you don't have to do quite so much work to get things in. It also means that things dissolve better in warm things, and the more something can dissolve, the more easily it can go into your body.
So if you put one of those HIGH5 tabs in warm water to cold water, it will dissolve quicker in warm water?
Yes.
Interesting. Oh,
yeah.
That's right.
So much so that if you put it into something like a boiling cup of water, it might just go, and so yeah, like it's designed to go into
almost like a bomb.
Yeah, a little bit like your sort of vinegar, bicarbonate of soda, sort of volcano style thing. Like, yeah, not too much like that, but like yeah, close. It would be more vigorous. Any reaction under heat is generally more vigorous.
And what difference would it make, like to somebody who's, say, going for a run first thing in the morning, if they go to bed hydrated and then wake up and quickly take a hydration drink and went out for a run, is that okay to drink that quickly? Or if you've got a really important long run, should you, perhaps if you wake in the night, just make sure that level stays topped up? How much do we actually lose while we're sleeping, I guess is what I'm asking.
It's important to go to bed hydrated. You'll get better sleep that way, frankly. We lose a fair amount just on our breath while we sleep, and we breathe more deeply as we sleep. And you note that if you ever been into a bedroom where someone hasn't aired it, like the damp builds up when people are sort of sleeping in a room. So there is that aspect of it. I think if you've gone to bed hydrated and woke up and just sort of knocked back a drink quickly, I don't see an issue with being able to sort of run out and train on that. Like I'd be more concerned if you woke up and just knocked straight back pure water to go out training, because what that might do is your body tries to bring that in, it uses some of its electrolytes up, and then it leaves you a bit short of what you need. So I'd encourage, if you're going to go out training, make sure it's an electrolyte drink that you neck beforehand. Even if you're drinking quickly, it just means that your body's got sort of something that it can use to help the transition of that water into something usable for us. Okay. Also, when we do drink a lot, your body's quite clever. So you've got like this valve at the bottom of your stomach. So if you drink a load of water, it opens like sporadically every 20 seconds or so. You can test this out yourself. So if you're lying down and have an empty stomach and you drink some water, and then just wait and hear how often your stomach gurgles as it's going down, and you time it, maybe about 20 seconds, and that's that opening every now and then and letting a bit more fluid through. So you can't easily flood your body. It will hold that and gradually let bits through. And
does it do that no matter how hard you're exercising? Does it keep at the same rate as rest, or?
That, I don't know the answer to that one. I'm not sure. I would expect the rate to change a bit, but probably not much. Mm-hmm. Even if you were dehydrated, I don't think it would. There's other reasons for it not wanting to flood itself. So I think it would still try and regulate that as much as it could.
So that's why I remember as a child I used to get like almost like that sloshing, feeling the sloshing around of liquid in your stomach because you've drunk so much. It's because your stomach is effectively regulating the second line of it going through.
Wow, it's holding it. Yeah. Wow. You have another one above your stomach as well that will deal with anything that goes in that it doesn't like the look of. So. Alcohol's a good example for that one. If you drink neat spirit, then it will sit above the stomach and be let in a little sort of drizzle. Which is why if someone's just necked a load of neat spirit and you want them to sort of not have that in them. If you pour water in on top, it dilutes it and it flushes it into the stomach. So it's actually, if someone's just necked a load of something that they shouldn't have done, you want them to bring it up. You don't want to water it down.
So again, and that's why I guess you can have a bit of a delayed reaction to being drunk, because it's slowly going into your
But
system
yeah,
rather than.
specifically with neat spirits, like
That's what
if
I
you're
mean. Yeah,
drinking
yeah.
beers or anything like that, then those they're not strong enough to sort of have a warning sign on them. But yeah, anything that's stronger than your body sort of knows what to do with it, or just go, it'll try and hold it
So,
and let it through gradually.
because you bring up alcohol, it's a good one. Like, would you recommend like a period of no alcohol before a race, especially a marathon? Would you say like ideally you want to spend at least 2 days, 3 days, or even a week before the race not putting alcohol in your system because of the byproducts or the issues around hydration or muscle kind of electrolyte balance or anything? I'm sorry to ask that, listeners. I apologise.
No, there probably will be some that wanted you to ask that, because
I know, but it's always
stories,
yeah.
aren't there? There are stories, Wendy, of people who, Dave Bedford, I'm thinking, is a famous one, the founder of not the founder, but used to run the London Marathon, and actually went out and drank a number of beers and then ran pretty well in the marathon the next day because of he would argue it's the carbohydrate boost from the beer.
That would be a very personal thing, and I imagine there are some people. I think there are some people who could probably go out and again, as you say, if it's beers or something, then they probably could. But that doesn't mean that it's advisable. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you necessarily should or should copy someone who seems to be able to. I would say that a solid 3 days without beforehand is advisable. A week would be preferable. You're trying to get your body into a cycle of when it's sort of hydrated or not, and trying not to disrupt its natural processes. And a hangover will do that. And if you're young enough that your hangover is only 1 day, then just because it only feels like 1 day, it doesn't mean there's not other stuff happening a few days afterwards. And if you're anywhere over probably 25, then your hangovers don't just last 1 day at that age anyway. They go on for a few days, and you can feel how long it takes for the body to recover.
On that, and I know we're getting a little bit off subject, but is the hydration thing, is that part of the factor in a hangover?
Yes. Oh, absolutely, yes.
So it's the body's cells being dehydrated.
The isotonic hydration drink that we make is my favourite hangover cure. I know that's not what it's for, but yeah, I would get back from a pub, I would have a pint of that before I go to bed, and then I'd wake up with another pint next to it, and most hangover problems would be resolved by that. Like there's still, you still put stress on the system, and there's still things to let yourself recover from, but the headaches and nausea and stuff, it's usually because you're lacking the electrolytes and hydration, specifically the hydration in your system. So I got friends that would come home and they'll drink a big pint of water, but that will just go through their system. It'll help them clear stuff out, but it won't put any electrolytes in, and it won't get the water into their sort of head for the headaches or into their cells for the exhaustion. So yeah, the electrolytes really do help with that.
I think
so I'm guessing that's where the kind of tomato juice with salt in.
Oh, absolutely. That's what a Bloody Mary is for. Yeah. Like, obviously, maybe not the Bloody Mary, but Virgin Mary.
So without the alcohol, would that work as a hydration for going running?
Yeah. That's the some sugar in there from the tomato stuff, some salt in there. Like, yeah, that does help bring everything back online. Yeah.
And tomatoes are fruit, which we doesn't get acknowledged enough. It's a super fruit.
It's actually quite nice to have that as a tasty recovery rehydration drink, isn't it? Because sometimes when you are trying to stay very hydrated and you're running a lot of miles, you're doing a lot of training, you're running the marathon, you kind of get sick of the taste of the drink. So to actually mix it up and have a different one as a recovery, and to know, I could reach for a tomato juice as long as I put the salt in it and mix. I'm guessing you maybe shouldn't put the spice in, or you should.
Spice in, that's fine. That's okay. Like those sorts of spices, I mean, there's connections between those kind of spices and sort of joint care and joint health and stuff. So yeah, no, I think there's a lot of value to a lot of the spices that we've always assumed in our food was just there for fun. Actually, I think a lot of them probably have quite a good benefit to the body.
I wanted to, unless you've got another hydration, I was going to move a little bit onto fueling a little bit.
No, I just had the only one I had on on the hydration, a little bit linked, is magnesium. So I know
Oh yeah.
magnesium is really important, and it's included in the hydration drinks.
Mm.
There is some talk of, and there are sprays that you can get, or bath salts. So you spray it on your skin and it gets absorbed directly. Is
Oh,
there
I've
a
seen those
better,
magnesium bath salts. Yeah, yeah.
which is the better way? I'm guessing the drinking is the best
In
way because it goes into
ingest.
all the cells.
It goes into all the cells, and I haven't seen anything directly contradicting this, but your skin's quite, it's your protective sort of coat, really. It's not really meant to let much stuff through. And so you can bathe in the magnesium salts, and some, I suppose, might get through, but it won't be to the same extent as actually ingesting something. Like if you want the magnesium in there, and the Western diet is quite often deficient in magnesium, and it does a lot more. The reason you see it in all the electrolyte drinks is that it is one of its benefits is it helps to regulate your electrolytes within your system. So that's very helpful. But it's got an awful lot of other health benefits too. And a lot of people that I know that have had trouble sleeping have started taking magnesium before going to bed and found that it does make a big difference.
Yeah, because I do think, I don't know about you, Tom, but it was something that I had to watch. I was always borderline low end all the way through because I think stress burns it. I'm not sure if high altitude training seemed to burn a little bit more.
But that would be linked to stress, wouldn't it? It's
And
all
then
stress on the body.
It's also around the menstrual cycle as well, isn't it? Magnesium levels go up and down.
Yes, yeah, it's cyclical for women and for men. I mean, the female cycle is more recognised as a 4 weeks, but the male cycle is 6 weeks of a hormone up and down, and you'll see fluctuations in that too.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about it, but you've caught me at a bad week. But I'm going to plow on through. I'm going to get through.
I'm sure you'll manage. Yeah.
Always a dangerous topic around two females. My wife somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the deficiency side of things, because obviously the supplementing of minerals has come forward heavily in the last sort of 20 years or so. And before that, one wonders what everyone was doing and whether they were well or not. But I think it coincides with changes to our food sources, changes to our agriculture and farming and so on, that means that our plants are grown faster with shallower roots, and so they don't get as much magnesium in. And so if you look at the expected amount of magnesium in, say, a broccoli from the 1980s versus now, there is a notable difference. We just don't get as much mineral from our diet as we would have done. And so there is reason to supplement. And that's why the change has happened.
That's very interesting because yesterday, is there much of a difference between organic and non-organic? And so effectively, I mean, we got some organic broccoli yesterday and it was full of little insects because obviously they haven't got the pesticides. But does pesticides affect the quality of the minerals in the broccolis?
Something that's exposed to pesticides or herbicides and stuff will probably also be being exposed to sort of growth processes that allow it to grow faster and bigger. And the faster and bigger something grows with like only roots in shallow topsoil, the less it's going to be able to sort of get further down and get sort of more significant amounts of minerals up from the soil. There will still be some in there because you can see what there's sort of scientific experiments showing what happens when a plant is completely deprived of magnesium and it goes this sort of sickly yellow color. So there's still an amount in there. It's just lower than it used to be, and it probably still be the case even for the organic side of things, because the restrictions on organic are against pesticides and some herbicides, but they'll still be using as much fertilizer as they can to get the crops up as quickly as they can. We have an ever increasing population. I don't even mean to be sort of slating our agriculture industry for that. Like, if you've got more people and you need to feed more people, then you have to grow faster. It's just that there's an offset to that, where by growing more quickly, you're not reaching the lower soil where that magnesium is. And also, in general, the soil itself is being turned and worked harder and more frequently. And so what we get is what's called soil depletion. So just the overall amount of stuff that's even available in the soil for us is going down. Our arable land is being heavily farmed now.
This is fascinating. So with that in mind, then obviously through your tabs and the magnesium, keeping on that, is the best way to supplement actually through drink rather than say tablets? Even like, you know, you can get magnesium tablets. Does your body, if you know, with baths, if magnesium
Yeah.
salts or baths, is the drink the best way to supplement it rather than tablets or any other way, do you think?
And on that, should perhaps we talked about the cyclical element of it. So should the women listening, particularly if you suffer a lot around you just before you get your period or when you just got it, should you look at boosting your hydration in the magnesium form at that time, or is there not enough evidence yet on that?
With regards to the menstrual cycle, despite women having been around for quite a while, the science on it is still evolving. But I would say personally, I've noticed an improvement if I focus on my supplementation more on the days leading up to my cycle, and that I get sort of mild anemia and stuff as well. If I forget 1 month to take my iron supplements or take my magnesium, I will notice a difference. And also, menstrual cramps are actually just the same as standard cramps and can be improved by taking on electrolytes because you're cramping, and it is the lack of electrolytes that is causing that. Your muscles are doing so much work during that time.
See, that's another excuse for me to bully my daughter to drink more.
Oh God, yeah, it will help. And I'm frustrated they didn't know this more when I was younger because I was relying, as many people do, just on hard painkillers, and they dehydrate you more. So yeah,
It's almost like,
so,
yeah, it's just making the situation worse. So would drinking be better than tablets then?
any form of vitamin or mineral that is more hydrated, more dissolvable, will be the better one for absorption. So solubility is a massive factor in supplements and in drugs as well, in anything to get into your body. The more soluble something is, the better it's going to go in.
So that's for the same reason with when we talk about the fuel, isn't it? That we
Yeah,
drink,
across
if you
the
drink
board,
a
yeah.
drink rather than you eat a banana, it's going to get into your system
It will get
faster.
in faster. Yeah, that doesn't mean there's not benefits to eating things or things going in slowly, but in general, I would say fluid forms of supplements best, capsules after that, and then tablets further down. The tableting process, it requires a lot of packing powders and things to sort of hold everything together. Not so much for the effervescent tablets, because that's sort of holding them with a view to them immediately dispersing into water. But your tableting for, if I were to choose to pick up like a packet of paracetamol, I would be looking for it in a capsule form rather than a tablet form. I would know that would go in faster and
Wow.
more efficiently. So
There is
yeah.
so much we should, and I'm conscious of the fact we haven't really touched on fueling. So
Okay.
would it be possible that you can come back on at a later date
Sure, yeah, yeah.
to go through the fueling side of it? I think
Mhm.
specifically as we get closer to marathons and the season, we are a
Yeah,
bit in
yeah,
the
sure.
season now, but it's getting into the thick of it because I think this has been, and I know I've pushed it more into the hydration with a throwback to Tokyo and the things that we saw there, but I'm sure there are so many people have drawn so much. I cannot thank you enough for joining us on this. I mean, I've learned loads of new things. Have you, Tom?
Oh, happily.
Yeah, no, genuinely, I now like when Gemma's having cramps in her cycle, I know the best thing she wants is not chocolate, it's not flowers, it's a glass of, it's
The
a
chocolate. The chocolate has magnesium in.
oh, have I messed up again?
Always let us have the
Okay.
chocolate.
Okay, so yeah, so I don't make her a high five drink. Just to keep the
You
chocolate
can
and
do
flowers.
that. You can
You
do
do
that
that, but as
with,
well
with
as
the chocolate.
with
Yeah,
the chocolate.
With the chocolate. Never take the chocolate away.
Oh, jeez, I tried, men. I tried, guys. Anyway.
This has been so fascinating, Wendy. I cannot thank you enough. I'm really conscious of the fact that we've really gone down the hydration route this time, perhaps with a nod to everything that people were watching at the World Athletics Championships. So I'd love to ask you to come back on and explain the fueling side of it into the marathons. And excitingly, we can do that now because we can announce the news that HIGH5 are going to come on board as a sponsor of the weekly shakeout on the podcast, and we're going to have special giveaways that will come to those that are on the honours board, so it'll be an actual high five for the high fivers.
Very good, Paula, well done.
So would that be okay that you come back on another time and explain the fueling side of it?
Happily, I look forward to it. It would be really lovely to come back on and talk more.
I think as well, and I'm going to throw this in there, but I think if anyone in the in the audience has a specific question, and we could throw out to you and read out
Yes.
your answer. So I think
Yeah, please do.
during the term of the sponsorship, it'd be really good if someone's got a very specific one around what we've discussed, and then we read out what your answer, or even you do a little short to answer it. Would be really good. I think having access to you and your expertise, as people listening will know, is very handy. And I'm sure a few people will now drink lots more alcohol and knowing how they can get around it.
They know what they have to
Hydration
do when they
drink
go
the
to
next
bed and when
morning.
they get up. And no,
Exactly.
you can't write into the honours board, which drops on a Monday, and get a high five for that. No,
yeah, yeah. I
got to be a
drank
genuine
10
performance.
pints and I didn't get hungover. Can I be on the honours board?
No,
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 no, you can't.
that's a no.
That's a no. You're not Dave Bedford. Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, Wendy. We look forward to
Brilliant.
getting you back on very soon, and to the sponsorship of Paula's Run Club. Thank you very much to you and the team.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, look forward to coming back soon.
That was so good from Wendy. Once again, a huge thank you for sharing so many nuggets there that will help a lot of people, I'm sure, with their hydration. And a big thank you to HIGH5 for coming on board as a sponsor of that weekly shakeout. Drops every Thursday, remember. And of course, the honours board that drops every Monday. So you can get an actual high five and be eligible for some giveaway product as well. And talking about the honours board, Thommo, what have we got on there this week? I think I'm going to kick off with a couple from Berlin Marathon. So we have Pete, that I met actually at the marathon workshop in Loughborough not long ago, who was getting ready. So now he has ticked off number 3 of the majors: London, New York, and now Berlin. Next stop,
Same as
Tokyo
me.
next March for him, and recovery from Berlin. So I'm glad that went well for you, Pete, and congratulations. There is a high five for you, and for Yoko as well. It was also her 3rd star, and absolutely enjoyed it. Thanks to the advice on changing what success looks like. Success to her changed to looking back at it and being able to say she really enjoyed it. She's really happy with how she paced the run. It was only a couple of minutes slow on the second half, mainly due to making sure that she was getting sufficient water on at each drink stop, because it was, of course, really warm in Berlin. So didn't yet get a place for Tokyo, but she's hoping that she will for Boston. So bring on the challenge for that 6 star. Have you got any on the high fives?
Yeah, no, it's a bit of an old one, but again, we're catching up a bit. But it's a bit of a high five to myself a little bit, because he said, Liam Reiki, he said, thank you for the podcast, and I want to put a thank you to me, and I feel bad saying it about me, but he makes a good point about I met him at the running show earlier this year, and at the end of it was under a long day, and I just basically had a conversation about little tweaks and little things that he could put in place. And he said since then he's run PBs. Oh, sorry, my son's back from school. He's yelling. He's run PBs at every distance, getting down to 18:20 for 5k, and going from 1:29 to 1:24 in the half marathon. And he's now working towards a sub 3 in Valencia this year. And he just wanted to say thank you and remind people that it's not always about radical changes that are needed, but sometimes just small little tweaks can make a big difference. And I think that's a lot of what we try and do in our messaging, is not trying to reinvent the wheel, but sometimes just oiling that wheel a little bit will help it move. And also, a funny one, just very quickly for the honours board, is I want to mention my mate Paul Laslett, who was carrying some paint in his driveway. He spilt it and it went all over his driveway, and then without realising it, he drove through it and then round his street and got paint all around his street. So the neighbours weren't too happy, and he spent all of Sunday cleaning up his driveway and the whole street because he'd just driven this paint all around everywhere. So well done, Paul. What a great...
That's a genuine honours board. Before I forget, because I've just remembered what day we are actually dropping now, I'm going to add to the honours board my son Raphael, because it is his 15th birthday.
Ah, happy birthday, Raph. Excellent.
So he's going to get
and
quickly
has he
on
got his
there.
message from Jimmy yet?
Oh, on that as well. Another quick addition to the honours board. He has got his message from Jimmy. He was very excited. And Jimmy, of course, is Jimmy Gressier. And so Jimmy Gressier's best mate. So we might or might not be working, and we're almost there in terms of getting him on the podcast. And I've been liaising with his best mate, Dorian. And so his best mate, Dorian, is trying to run all 7 majors in a year under average pace of under 2:30.
Wow,
And
that'll
completed
be
number
an
5
effort.
in Berlin in 2:28, so is fully on track, given that he absolutely smashed Tokyo out of the park. So he's got a little bit of margin there and 2 left to go. So adding Dorian to the honours board, and keep listening for that one moving forward. So remember, we do always want to hear from you for lots of shout outs to this honours board. Just again, that details are Paula's Run Club at momentumbroadcast.co.uk. The WhatsApp number, and for voicemail messages as well, remember, is +44 7564 747 914. You can get us on socials as well, at Paula's Run Club on Instagram, TikTok and X. And don't forget, you can watch the full podcast on YouTube. A reminder that this main podcast drops every Monday, and on Thursday we have the weekly shakeout where we answer all of your running questions. Send those in to the same addresses. And another quick thing before we go, just on NordVPN, remember that offer is still running. Thommo, I did use it. I used it a lot of times out in Tokyo to be able to do things. I actually had my son, as we mentioned, I think before, running around trying to access it so that he could watch the aforementioned Jimmy Grecio race while he was out and about. And it works really well. So you do get that, of course, protection of your personal security, and you can watch all of the things that you would normally stream at home as if you were at home while you're away enjoying your holiday, and protection for up to 10 devices at a time. So just a reminder that you need to head to the
Do you know anyone that has 10?
I think our family does have 10.
Oh,
yeah.
well, fair enough.
Yeah,
then,
I think amongst us, if you think about it, as kids get older, your kids are too young, but yeah, as kids get older,
That's
everybody
true,
might
actually,
have
yeah.
2 or 3 devices, and you quickly get to that 10. Believe me.
Well, that's the thing. That's why they're covering you to have that many, which is good. So you can actually look after your family and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good.
So it does work there. So just a reminder, you need to head to nordvpn.com/Paula's Run Club, and you can get the discounts and everything that we have managed to negotiate with that there, and try it out for yourself.
There you go.
Again, though, thank you very much for listening to this. Once more, a happy birthday to Raf today. If you're listening, I'm sure he's not, but he might be listening around the corner. If you are, this has been a Momentum Broadcast production. Thank you for listening, and don't forget the weekly shakeout drops Thursday, and we'll see you next week for the main pod.
Excellent. See you later, guys.